Did you know there's a canyon in South Dakota where you can find ice that never melts, even when the prairie above is baking in 100-degree heat? Or that in certain parts of the state, the ground contains so much phosphorus and shale that the earth can occasionally seem to set itself on fire? How about the fact that South Dakota is home to the Badlands, a landscape so fragile you can literally watch a canyon wall erode in real time during a single rainstorm? Well, from ultra-pure laboratories buried a mile underground hunting for invisible dark matter, to record-breaking hailstones the size of volleyballs, the Mount Rushmore state has a lot more up its sleeve than just presidential faces and bison herds. So buckle up, because we're about to hit you with 50 of the strangest facts about South Dakota that you probably never knew. To understand South Dakota, you must first understand the Missouri Trench. It's more than just a river. It's the boundary between two different versions of Earth. Fact 50. Two Americas in one state. South Dakota is famously split into East River and West River. This isn't just local slang, it's a profound geographic reality. The Missouri River follows the exact edge of where the last great glacier stopped 10,000 years ago. East of the river, the land is a moist, fertile glaciated plain filled with thousands of lakes. West of the river, the glaciers never reached, leaving a rugged, semi-arid landscape of deep canyons and high plateaus. It's perhaps the most distinct internal border of any state in the Union. Fact 49. A landscape built by ice. The rolling hills of eastern South Dakota are the result of glacial till. During the Pleistocene, massive ice sheets acted like cosmic sandpaper, grinding down mountains and depositing rich, mineral-heavy silt. As the ice retreated, it left behind moraines, ridges of debris that create the gentle waves in the landscape we see today. Without this frozen history, South Dakota would lack the rich topsoil that now feeds a significant portion of the planet. Fact 48. The island in the plains. The Black Hills are a geological anomaly. They're not part of the Rocky Mountains, despite their appearance. They're what geologists call an elliptical dome. Imagine a giant bubble of ancient granite trying to burst through the Earth's crust from below. Surrounded by hundreds of miles of flat prairie, this island of stone creates its own weather, its own ecosystems, and a silhouette that looks like a dark mirage on the horizon. Fact 47. The ancient core. The rocks at the center of the Black Hills are among the oldest exposed materials in the world. Some of the granite outcroppings date back nearly 2 billion years. To put that in perspective, these rocks were formed before there were trees, before there were dinosaurs, and even before there was enough oxygen in the atmosphere for complex animals to breathe. When you touch the spires of the Needles, you're touching the literal foundation of the North American continent. Fact 46. The desert of vanished oceans. Badlands National Park is famous for its moonscape appearance, but its geography was born underwater. For millions of years, this area was the bottom of the Western Interior Seaway. The gray and black stripes you see in the rock are the compressed mud and silt of an ancient seafloor. As the water receded and the climate dried, it transformed into a tropical floodplain, leaving behind a vertical timeline of Earth's history. Fact 45. The fastest eroding landscape. The Badlands are disappearing before our eyes. While most mountains erode at a rate of an inch every few thousand years, the soft silt and clay of the Badlands erodes at an incredible rate of 1 inch per year. Every major rainstorm literally carves new features and destroys old ones. Geologists estimate that in another 500,000 years the Badlands will be completely gone, leveled back into flat prairie by the relentless South Dakota wind and rain. Fact 44. The stripe of time. The distinct color bands in the South Dakota Badlands are actually a climate record. The tan and pink layers represent ancient soil from a time when the area was a warm, humid forest. The gray layers indicate volcanic ash from eruptions in the distant west. Each stripe is a page in a book, allowing scientists to read exactly how the temperature and moisture of the continent shifted over 40 million years. Fact 43. The Peak of the East. Despite its reputation as a flat state, South Dakota is home to the Black Elk Peak. At 7,244 feet, it's the highest point in North America east of the Rocky Mountains. If you were to travel in a straight line east from this summit, you wouldn't find anything higher until you hit the Pyrenees Mountains in France. This is a true alpine environment, complete with mountain goats and subalpine fir trees, rising unexpectedly out of the Great Plains. Fact 42. The Surgeon of the Plains. The Missouri River is the primary architect of South Dakota's geography. It doesn't just carry water, it carries the weight of the continent. The river entrenched itself so deeply during the melting of the glaciers that it created a valley miles wide and hundreds of feet deep. This trench acts as a massive thermal sink, influencing local wind patterns and creating a microclimate that allows different species of plants to survive along its banks than in the surrounding plains. Fact 41. Longer than the Mississippi. It's a common misconception that the Mississippi is the longest river in the United States. In reality, the Missouri River, which bisects South Dakota, is longer by about 100 miles. It's the longest river in North America. By the time the water passes through South Dakota, it's already traveled thousands of miles from its source in the Montana Rockies, carrying the dissolved minerals of the West toward the Gulf of Mexico. While the surface of South Dakota is defined by vast horizons, its greatest geographic mysteries might be what lies beneath the grass. Fact 40. The man-made seas. South Dakota contains 4 of the largest reservoirs in the United States: Oahe, Big Bend, Fort Randall, and Gavin's Point. Lake Oahe alone has more shoreline than the entire state of Maryland. These are inland seas. They're so massive that they have altered the local geography, creating new wetlands and changing the humidity levels of the surrounding counties, turning what was once dry prairie into a lakeside ecosystem. Fact 39. The Triple Drainage Divide. South Dakota is a hydrological crossroads. Depending on exactly where a raindrop falls in the state, it can end up in 3 different places: the Gulf of Mexico via the Missouri, the Hudson Bay in Canada via the Red River of the North, or it can be trapped in the endorheic basins of the Northeast, where it simply evaporates. The state is one of the few places where you can stand on a slight hill and decide the fate of a gallon of water. Fact 38. The ash that preserves. Millions of years ago, massive volcanic eruptions in what is now Nevada and Idaho sent clouds of ash drifting east. This ash settled over South Dakota in layers several feet thick. Because volcanic ash is chemically unique, it acts as a death mask for prehistoric animals, suffocating them and then perfectly preserving their bones. Without these ancient western volcanoes, South Dakota's fossil record would likely have rotted away ages ago. Fact 37. The Mammoth Graveyard. In Hot Springs, South Dakota, there's a geographic death trap that became a scientific gold mine. An ancient sinkhole filled with warm, artesian water acted as a lure for Columbian mammoths. Once they stepped in, the slippery banks prevented them from leaving. Today, it's the world's largest research facility for mammoth fossils, with over 60 mammoths discovered in a space no larger than a city block. Fact 36. Buried river channels. Beneath the surface of South Dakota lie paleochannels, rivers that dried up millions of years ago and were buried by sediment. These ancient riverbeds now act as high-capacity aquifers. Farmers in the West River region often rely on these ghost rivers for irrigation, pumping water that originally flowed during the age of the rhinoceros and the saber-toothed cat. Fact 35. The breath of the earth. South Dakota is home to Wind Cave, one of the longest and oldest caves in the world. It's geographically unique because it breathes. Due to the difference in atmospheric pressure between the cave and the surface, air constantly rushes in or out of the natural entrance. If the barometric pressure is falling, the cave exhales with winds reaching up to 70 miles per hour. Fact 34. The calcite honeycomb. Wind Cave contains 95% of the world's known boxwork. While most caves are known for stalactites, Wind Cave features delicate, honeycomb-like structures made of calcite. These formed when the surrounding rock dissolved away, leaving behind the mineral veins. It looks like a mathematical grid, or an alien architecture, and it's found almost nowhere else on the planet in such concentration. Fact 33. The Jewel of the Hills. Just a few miles away is Jewel Cave, the 3rd longest cave system in the world. Its geography is defined by spar crystals, calcite crystals that coat the walls and sparkle like diamonds when hit by light. With over 215 miles of mapped passages, geologists believe that based on air volume studies, only 3 to 5% of the cave has actually been discovered. The geography beneath South Dakota is arguably larger than the geography on top of it. Fact 32. The shadow of the clouds. Because South Dakota is so flat and the air is so clear, the geography of the sky is just as important as the land. It's one of the few places on Earth where you can see the footprint of a cloud. Shadows from massive cumulus clouds can span entire towns, moving across the prairie like giant, silent ghosts. It's a visual reminder of the sheer scale of the Great Plains. Fact 31. The collision zone. South Dakota sits at the literal center of the North American continent. This makes it a geographic battleground for air masses. Arctic air from the north, tropical moisture from the Gulf, and dry desert air from the west all collide here. This geography is why the state holds world records for fastest temperature changes and some of the most violent hailstorms ever recorded. We often think of the prairie as a static, empty space, but South Dakota's grasslands are a complex, ancient machine. Fact 30. The Tornado Laboratory. South Dakota's flat geography acts as a runway for supercell thunderstorms. Without mountains to break up the wind flow, storms can remain organized for hundreds of miles. This allows for the formation of mothership clouds, massive rotating structures that can be seen from 50 miles away, looking like alien craft hovering over the wheat fields. Fact 29. The rain shadow effect. The Black Hills create a rain shadow. As clouds move from west to east, they hit the mountains and are forced upward, where they dump their moisture as snow or rain. By the time the air moves past the hills, it's dry. This is why the area immediately east of the Black Hills is often much drier and more desert-like than the mountains themselves. Fact 28. Wind as an architect. In South Dakota, the wind is a primary geographic sculptor. It moves more soil annually than the rivers do. This constant aeolian force shapes the way plants grow, tilting the lone cottonwood trees and carving blowouts in the sandhills. If you look at the grass in South Dakota, it almost always leans in the direction of the prevailing northwest winds. Fact 27. The grass-covered dunes. Much of South Dakota is actually a hidden desert. Beneath the grass of the Sandhills region are massive sand dunes, some hundreds of feet high. These were active, moving dunes just a few thousand years ago. Today, they're stabilized by the root systems of the prairie grass. If a major drought were to kill the grass, South Dakota would transform back into a Sahara-like landscape of shifting sand almost overnight. Fact 26. The seasonal river reversal. During the spring breakup, South Dakota's rivers can experience a phenomenon where they appear to flow backward. Large chunks of river ice can jam together, creating a temporary dam. This causes the water behind the jam to surge backward into tributaries, flooding fields and changing the local drainage patterns in a matter of hours. Fact 25. The glacial potholes. Eastern South Dakota is dotted with thousands of prairie potholes. These are small, circular wetlands created when giant chunks of glacial ice were buried in the soil. When the ice melted, the ground collapsed, leaving behind a bowl. These bowls now serve as the duck factory of North America, providing the primary breeding ground for millions of migratory birds. Fact 24. Soil that moves. Because so much of South Dakota is made of pierre shale, a type of clay-rich rock, the soil is expansive. When it gets wet, it swells. When it dries, it shrinks and cracks. This moving soil makes it incredibly difficult to build roads and buildings in the West River region, as the geography itself is constantly trying to shift and buckle anything built upon it. Fact 23. The silence of the West. In the vast expanses of the Buffalo Gap National Grassland, you can experience absolute silence. Because there are no trees to rustle and the terrain is so open, the background noise levels are among the lowest in the country. It's a geographic experience of pure space, where the only sound is the wind or the distant bark of a prairie dog. Fact 22. The uplifting mountains. The Black Hills are still rising. While the change is measured in millimeters, the deep crustal forces that created the hills are still active. As the surrounding plains are eroded away by the Cheyenne and White Rivers, the unloading of weight allows the mountains to slowly spring upward, making them a living mountain range. Fact 21. The horizon of anticipation. Because of the lack of vertical obstacles, South Dakota offers a 3-hour warning for weather. You can see a dark line of a cold front on the horizon while you're still standing in 80-degree sunshine. This geographic openness creates a culture of weather watching that's unique to the Great Plains. South Dakota is a library where the pages are made of stone. Every layer of its geography, tells a story of survival and extinction. Fact 20. Tectonic stability. South Dakota sits in the Craton, the stable interior of the North American plate. This means it's one of the most geologically stable places on Earth. While the geography is dramatic, it wasn't created by sudden earthquakes, but by the slow, patient work of wind and water over millions of years. Fact 19. Riparian corridors. In the dry West River region, the rivers create linear jungles. Because water's so scarce, trees and wildlife are compressed into narrow strips along the riverbanks. From the air, these look like green veins stretching across a tan body, concentrating the state's biodiversity into less than 1% of its landmass. Fact 18. The fire ecology. Fire is a fundamental part of South Dakota's geography. Historically, lightning-caused fires would sweep across the plains, clearing out dead grass and preventing forests from encroaching on the prairie. The geography of the open plains is actually maintained by fire. Without it, the state would slowly transform into a scrubby woodland. Fact 17. The 130-degree swing. The geography of the center of a continent leads to thermal extremes. South Dakota has recorded a low of -58 degrees Fahrenheit and a high of 120 degrees Fahrenheit. This 178-degree range is a testament to how the land here has no ocean buffer to regulate its temperature. Fact 16. Geology in real time. In the Badlands, you can see slumping. Entire hillsides often slide down after a heavy rain. This is geology happening in human time, not geological time. You can take a photo of a formation one year and return the next year to find it's completely changed its shape. Fact 15. The continuous record. South Dakota is one of the only places on Earth with a nearly gapless fossil record from the late Cretaceous to the Miocene. It's a perfect laboratory for studying how the Earth's climate cooled and dried over 50 million years, recorded in the shifting colors of the soil. Fact 14. Antecedent rivers. Some rivers in the Black Hills, like Spearfish Creek, are antecedent. This means the river was there before the mountains rose. As the land lifted up, the river was powerful enough to cut down through the rock, maintaining its course and carving deep, spectacular canyons like Spearfish Canyon. Fact 13. The root system forest. Below the surface of the South Dakota prairie is a hidden forest. The roots of big bluestem grass can reach 10 feet deep into the soil. This massive underground biomass is what keeps the state from blowing away during droughts, anchoring the geography against the relentless prairie winds. Fact 12. The rolling illusion. Travelers often think the Great Plains are flat, but the geography is actually a series of benches and steps. As you drive from the Missouri River toward the Black Hills, you're constantly climbing. You gain nearly 3,000 feet in elevation across the state, a hidden mountain that's so wide you don't even realize you're climbing it. Fact 11. The scarcity of water. Geography is destiny in South Dakota. Because the state sits in the 100th meridian transition zone, water access has determined where every town was built. The geography of human settlement here is a map of where the wells didn't run dry and where the rivers didn't flood. We reach the final truths of a land that's much older and deeper than it looks. Fact 10. Ancient shorelines. If you look at the limestone layers of the Black Hills, you can find fossilized ripple marks, the exact pattern of waves hitting a beach from 300 million years ago. It's a dizzying geographic thought. The high, dry mountains of South Dakota were once a tropical beachfront. Fact 9. A living laboratory. Because South Dakota's geography is so exposed, it's a primary site for NASA to test satellite imagery. The distinct patterns of its farms, its river trenches, and its mountain domes make it a perfect calibration target for the sensors that monitor the health of our planet from space. Fact 8. The architecture of storms. The wall of the Badlands isn't just a scenic lookout. It's a weather barrier. It can trigger the uplift needed to turn a simple rain shower into a massive supercell. The geography of the stone creates the geography of the clouds. Fact 7. The land controls the route. Even in the age of GPS, South Dakota's geography dictates travel. Huge areas of the state have no through roads because the breaks along the river are too rugged to cross. To move through South Dakota, you must still follow the paths that the buffalo and the native tribes used centuries ago. Fact 6. Deceptive distances. Because the air is so thin and dry, your eyes can play tricks on you. A mountain peak that looks 10 miles away might actually be 40. This geographic mirage has humbled many explorers who thought they could reach the hills in a single afternoon. Fact 5. Prehistoric vistas. Much of the South Dakota interior looks exactly as it did 10,000 years ago. Because the land is too dry for intensive trees and too rugged for massive cities, it's one of the few places where you can see the original America. Fact 4. Time perception. The geography of scale in South Dakota actually changes your perception of time. When the horizon is 50 miles away, rushing feels futile. The land forces a slower, more deliberate pace on everyone who enters it. Fact 3. Written in stone. Every butte and mesa in South Dakota is a reminder of a higher plane that has been washed away. They're monuments of erosion, standing as tall witnesses to just how much of the earth has been moved by the wind. Fact 2. New discoveries. South Dakota's geography is still giving up secrets. In just the last few years, new species of dinosaurs and massive underwater cave passages have been discovered. The map is never truly finished here. Fact 1. The quiet unreal. The most profound fact about South Dakota is that its drama is subtle. It doesn't scream for your attention with neon lights or jagged coastlines. It's a place where geography whispers. It's a land that's endlessly deep, where the further you look, the more you realize that this simple state is actually one of the most complex places on the planet. South Dakota is a land written in the language of stone and wind. It's a place that reminds us that the earth is not a finished product, but a work in progress. From the 2-billion-year-old heart of the Black Hills to the shifting sands of the hidden dunes, it's a landscape that demands respect and rewards patience. It's a place where the horizon isn't an end, but a beginning. If this journey through the hidden geography of South Dakota changed your perspective, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the world's most unreal places. We want to hear from you. Which fact surprised you the most? Was it the breathing cave or the hidden desert beneath the grass? Drop a comment below and let us know. We'll see you next time on Around the World.